There's a sentence the Stoics wrote over 2,000 years ago that contradicts almost everything you've learned about how to get what you want in life. You were taught that success comes from effort, that if you want something, you need to chase it, push, force it, never stop. But Epictetus, a man born a slave who became one of the most respected thinkers in Rome, discovered something that goes against all of that. The more tightly you cling to a specific outcome, the more that outcome slips through your fingers. It's not luck. It's not coincidence. It's a psychological mechanism that modern neuroscience confirms 2,000 years later. And in the next few minutes, you're going to understand exactly why your anxiety, your frustration, this constant feeling of rowing against the current has a single root cause. And it has a solution. Life has a strange way of teaching us lessons. The more we try to control every small detail, the outcomes, the timing, the way people respond, the more frustrated and exhausted we become. We plan our lives down to the smallest steps, thinking that if we just try harder, push harder, and never give up, things will finally fall into place. But what if I told you the opposite is true? That the moment you stop forcing, stop grasping, and start trusting, everything begins to flow effortlessly. This isn't about giving up. It's about understanding where your real power actually lies. The Stoics mastered this way of thinking centuries ago. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, and one of the most powerful men who ever lived, wrote about the importance of accepting what comes naturally and not wasting energy fighting against reality. He understood that fighting against things outside our control only leads to suffering. The real battle is always internal, training the mind to focus on what can be shaped and letting the rest go. That's exactly what we're diving into today. 7 principles that can transform the way you approach success, relationships, and even your own peace of mind. Because if you're constantly stressed, feeling like no matter what you do, things just don't seem to work out, there's a reason for that. You might be holding on too tightly to things that were never meant to be controlled. Stay until the end. Because the last principle I'll share with you is what separates those who live in peace from those who live in constant war with their own lives. First principle: detach from the outcome. We spend much of our lives obsessed with outcomes, waiting for that job offer, hoping that relationship works out, stressed about whether our efforts will pay off. We tell ourselves that if we work a little harder, push a little more, we can force things to go our way. But what happens? The more we cling to a specific outcome, the more anxious we become. The process stops being fulfilling, and our happiness becomes entirely dependent on something we can't fully control. And that's exactly where we trap ourselves. The Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus taught that we don't suffer because of what happens, but because of our attachment to what we want to happen. He said, "Do not seek to have events happen as you wish, but wish them to happen as they do happen, and you will go on well." In other words, instead of tying your happiness to a specific outcome, focus on the process. Focus on what you can control, your actions, your discipline, your mindset, and let everything else go. Think of an artist painting a masterpiece. If he's obsessed with making every brushstroke perfect, worried about how others will judge his work, he'll never enter a creative flow. But when he detaches from the final result and simply focuses on the act of painting, something incredible happens. He becomes completely immersed in the moment. The work becomes effortless. And ironically, that's exactly when he creates his best art. The same principle applies to everything in life: work, relationships, personal growth. When you stop fixating on how things should turn out, you give yourself the freedom to enjoy the journey. This is especially true in relationships. Have you ever seen someone try too hard to impress another person? Their energy feels needy, desperate, almost forced. And what happens? It pushes people away. But when someone is confident, comfortable in their own skin, and not obsessed with a particular outcome, they naturally attract others. Why? Because that person isn't controlled by fear. They trust that whatever is meant to be will be. That's the power of detachment. Now let's talk about success. Many people believe that if they don't reach a specific goal by a certain time, they've failed. They treat life like a rigid checklist. Graduate by a certain age, earn a certain amount of money, get married, reach a certain level of success. And if things don't go according to plan, they spiral into self-doubt. But here's the point, almost no one stops to consider. Success isn't a straight path. It's full of twists, setbacks, and unexpected opportunities. If you're too attached to one specific outcome, you might end up missing an even better one that life is trying to bring you. Pause for a moment and ask yourself, where am I holding on too tightly? What goal, what expectation, what outcome is causing me this constant stress? Now imagine what would happen if you loosened that grip. Not giving up, but trusting that whatever happens, you'll be okay. That's detachment. And it doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop needing things to follow a specific path in order to feel at peace. So how do you actually practice this in real life? First, remind yourself daily that outcomes are beyond your control. All you can control is your effort, your discipline, and your mindset. Second, reframe your thinking. Instead of, I need this to happen, shift to, I trust that whatever happens will be for my growth. And finally, focus on the present moment. The more you immerse yourself in the now, the less power the future has over you. If this idea of detachment is resonating with you, this is the first real step toward living with less anxiety. And if you want to keep receiving reflections like this, take a moment to subscribe to the channel now. It helps this content reach more people who need it. Now let's move on to the second principle, which goes even deeper. Second principle, master your mindset. Life throws challenges at us constantly. Some days, everything flows effortlessly, and on others it feels like the entire world is working against you. The difference between people who crumble under pressure and those who thrive isn't luck. It's mindset. The way you think shapes how you experience life. And if you don't learn to master your mind will master you. You can't always control what happens around you. The economy, other people's actions, unexpected obstacles. But you can control how you respond to all of it. That's exactly where the real power lies. When you shift your mindset from reacting to responding, everything changes. Psychologist William James, often called the father of modern psychology, once said, "The greatest weapon against stress is our ability to choose one thought over another." This is exactly what the Stoics taught 20 centuries earlier. You don't have to believe every thought that enters your mind. You don't have to let every difficult moment define you. Instead, you can train yourself to reframe situations, step back, and view them from a new perspective. Imagine you're going through a hard time at work. You keep making mistakes. Your boss is on your case, and you feel like you're failing. One way to approach this is to think, I'm terrible at this. I'll never improve. Maybe I'm just not good enough. That's a fixed mindset, and it traps you in self-doubt. But what if you shifted that thought? What if instead you said, I'm learning, every mistake is teaching me something, the pressure I'm feeling is helping me grow. That's a growth mindset, and it allows you to turn difficulties into opportunities. Seneca took this even further. He once said, difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body. This means every struggle, every setback, every moment of frustration is actually training you to become stronger. Think of it like lifting weights. If you never challenge yourself, you never build strength. The same goes for your mind. But let's be honest, mastering your mindset isn't something that happens overnight. It requires daily practice. One simple way to start is by paying attention to your inner dialogue. Are you constantly feeding yourself thoughts of fear, doubt, and negativity? Or are you training yourself to see opportunities, to reframe situations, to stay calm in the face of uncertainty? Your mind is like a garden. What you plant is what grows. If you plant seeds of fear and anxiety, that's what will take over. But if you plant seeds of strength, clarity, and resilience, those are what will flourish. Another way to strengthen your mindset is to train yourself to stay present. Much of the stress we feel comes from obsessing over the past or worrying about the future. But the only thing you can control is this exact moment, right now. The next time you feel overwhelmed, ask yourself, what can I do right now that will move me forward? That single question can pull you out of panic and bring you back to what actually matters. Third principle, trust, divine timing. Patience is one of the hardest things to practice, especially when you're working towards something important. You've put in the effort, done everything right, and yet nothing seems to be happening. It's frustrating, isn't it? The world tells us success should come fast, that if we're not seeing instant results, we must be doing something wrong. But the truth is, life doesn't operate on our schedule. It moves according to its own rhythm, and trying to rush the process often leads to disappointment. The Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus once said, "No great thing is created suddenly." Think about it. Anything truly valuable, wisdom, strength, success, takes time to develop. Just as you can't force a tree to grow faster by pulling on its branches, you can't force life to give you what you want before the moment is right. There's an order to things. And when you learn to trust that timing, you free yourself from an enormous amount of unnecessary stress. Imagine a young artist who dreams of making a name for himself. He works tirelessly, pouring his heart into his craft, but isn't seeing the recognition he desires. At this point, he has two choices. He can become frustrated, lose faith, and give up. Or he can trust that every brushstroke, every piece of work, is preparing him for something greater, even if he can't see it yet. Those who trust the process keep going and eventually find themselves exactly where they're meant to be. We live in a culture of instant gratification. Fast food, fast information, fast success. We've been conditioned to believe that if something doesn't happen quickly, it isn't worth waiting for. But some things need time, relationships, personal growth, mastering a skill. All of it requires patience. Socrates once said, "To do is to be." This means growth lies in the process, not just in the outcome. If you're always focused on when something will happen, you lose sight of who you're becoming along the way. But here's the hard part. How do you stay patient when it feels like nothing is happening? The Stoics would say, focus on what's within your control. You can't control timing, but you can control your actions. You can keep showing up, keep doing the work, keep growing as a person. And most importantly, you can trust that if something is meant for you, it will come. Not a second too soon, not a second too late. One of the greatest lessons Stoicism teaches is the power of acceptance. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together. Instead of resisting life's timing, learn to embrace it." If things aren't happening as fast as you want, maybe it's because you're still in the process of becoming the person who's ready for them. Fourth principle, act with purpose, not desperation. Have you ever noticed that when you desperately chase something, it always seems to slip further away? Whether it's a job, a relationship, or even success. The more frantic and needy your energy, the more things seem to slip through your fingers. It's almost as if life senses the desperation and responds by pulling back. But when you act with purpose, with calm confidence, everything starts to align naturally. There's a powerful difference between chasing and attracting. The Stoics understood this well. Epictetus once said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." In other words, before you act, get clear on why you're acting. Desperate action comes from fear. Fear of losing, fear of failing, fear of not being enough. But purposeful action comes from a place of clarity and strength. When you know who you are and what you stand for, your actions become more deliberate, more grounded. Let's look at an example. Imagine two people looking for a job. The first one is desperate, sends applications everywhere, applying for jobs they don't even want, panicking with every rejection. Their energy is scattered, anxious, uncertain. The second person, however, is focused. She knows her strengths, takes time to craft meaningful applications, and prepares without becoming obsessed with immediate results. Who do you think has a better chance of getting hired? The one who is calm, confident, and strategic, not the one acting out of fear. This applies to relationships too. If you enter a relationship out of desperation, fearing loneliness, seeking validation, it often leads to disappointment. But when you approach relationships with self-respect and confidence, you attract healthier, more fulfilling connections. People are drawn to those who are secure in themselves, not to those clinging for attention. Aristotle spoke of eudaimonia, a state of living with purpose and fulfillment. He believed true happiness doesn't come from chasing external things, but from aligning your actions with your virtues and values. This is exactly what the Stoics taught as well. Act with wisdom, integrity, and purpose, and let the outcomes take care of themselves. When you move with intention instead of panic, you start making better decisions. You stop wasting time on things that don't align with your true goals. Think of an experienced chess player versus a beginner. The beginner reacts impulsively, making moves out of fear and uncertainty. The expert, however, plays with patience, seeing the bigger picture, making deliberate choices. Life works the same way. If you're constantly reacting out of fear, you'll make choices that lead to more chaos. But if you step back, act with clarity, and trust the process, you move closer to the life you actually want. So how do you shift from acting out of desperation to acting with purpose? First, get clear on your why. Ask yourself, am I doing this because I truly want it, or because I'm afraid of not having it? Second, slow down. Desperation rushes, purpose moves with patience. Instead of making decisions from a place of fear, give yourself time to reflect and choose wisely. And finally, trust yourself. You don't need to force things to fit together. When you act with confidence and alignment, opportunities naturally come to you. Seneca once said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Much of desperation comes from imagined fears. What if I don't succeed? What if I fail? But the truth is, you're stronger than you think, and you don't need to be desperate for what's meant for you. Act with purpose, and watch how life begins to align in your favor. Fifth principle. Let go of control. Have you ever felt exhausted from trying to control everything? You plan, push, strategize, but somehow life still doesn't unfold the way you expect. It's frustrating, isn't it? You try to make people act a certain way, force circumstances to fit, predict every possible outcome, only to find yourself more stressed and less in control than ever. The tighter you grip, the more things slip through your fingers. But here's the paradox. The moment you let go, life starts working in your favor. The Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." Think about it. True freedom doesn't come from controlling everything around you. It comes from letting go of the need to control. The more energy you spend trying to manage things that aren't yours to manage, other people's opinions, the future, the past, the more you drain yourself. But when you shift your focus to what you can control, your thoughts, your actions, your responses, you reclaim your power. Take relationships as an example. Have you ever tried to change someone? Maybe you wanted a friend, a partner, or a family member to behave differently, be more understanding, more supportive, more aligned with your expectations. But no matter how hard you tried, they stayed the same. That's because people aren't ours to control. We can communicate, we can set boundaries, we can choose who we allow into our lives, but we can't force anyone to change. When you release that need, you free yourself from frustration and allow relationships to unfold naturally. The same applies to success. Many people believe that if they just try harder, they'll reach their goals faster. But there's a difference between effort and control. You absolutely should work toward your goals, but obsessing over every tiny detail, stressing about timing, and fearing failure only creates resistance. Seneca once said, "Fate guides the willing and drags along the reluctant." In other words, when you fight against life's natural flow, you create unnecessary struggle. But when you trust the process and focus on what's within your power, things unfold much more smoothly. Imagine you're preparing for an important interview. You've done the research, practiced, and you're ready. But instead of trusting your preparation, you start overthinking. What if they ask me something I don't know? What if I mess it up? What if I don't get the job? Now your energy is shifting from confidence to anxiety. You walk into the interview nervous, tense, and doubting yourself. This need for control is actually making you perform worse. If you take a deep breath, remind yourself that you did the work, and let go of the outcome, you walk in relaxed, present, and far more likely to succeed. So how do you start letting go of control? First, recognize what's within your power and what isn't. The Stoics believed in the dichotomy of control. There are things we can influence and things we can't. Wasting energy on the uncontrollable only leads to frustration. Second, practice acceptance. Life won't always follow the plan, but that doesn't mean it's going wrong. Sometimes detours lead to better destinations. And finally, build confidence, not just in life, but in yourself. Trust that you can handle whatever comes, even if it's not what you expected. Sixth principle. Embody abundance. Have you ever noticed that some people seem to attract success, opportunities, and even happiness effortlessly? It's not that they have some secret advantage. It's their mindset. The way they think, carry themselves, and see the world creates a reality where abundance flows to them naturally. On the other hand, people who constantly focus on what they lack seem to struggle endlessly, no matter how hard they work. It's not about luck. It's about the energy you bring into your life. The Stoics understood this long before modern psychology confirmed it. Epictetus said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." True abundance isn't about accumulating money, collecting achievements, or endlessly chasing more. It's about realizing you already have everything you need to live a fulfilling life. When you stop operating from a scarcity mindset, believing you never have enough, you make room for more to come to you naturally. Imagine two people walking into the same room. One is focused on everything they lack. They compare themselves to others, feel like they're falling behind, and believe success is always out of reach. Their energy is heavy, their words full of doubt, and without realizing it, they repel opportunities. The second person walks in believing they have enough. Enough knowledge, enough skill, enough opportunities ahead. They engage with confidence, naturally build connections, and end up walking away with new possibilities. The only difference, one person lived in scarcity, the other in abundance. And this isn't just about money or success. It applies to relationships, happiness, even time. If you believe there's never enough love, never enough time, never enough good people in the world, then your mind will always look for proof of that belief. But if you shift your focus, you'll start seeing opportunities everywhere. You'll recognize the good in others, the possibilities in every moment, and the blessings that already exist in your life. Psychologist William James once said, "The greatest discovery of my generation is that a human being can alter their life by altering their attitudes." If you constantly feel like you're missing something, your brain will focus on that lack. But if you train your mind to see abundance, if you practice gratitude, confidence, and faith in life, you begin to shift your entire reality. It's not magic, it's perception. What you focus on grows. Think of a musician who approaches his career with a scarcity mindset. He constantly worries there aren't enough opportunities, that the industry is too competitive, that he'll never make it. Every rejection feels like proof of his fears. Because of this, he plays it safe, hesitates to take risks, and misses potential breakthroughs. Now imagine another musician who believes in abundance. He sees every rejection as redirection, every challenge as an opportunity to improve. He takes more risks, connects with more people, and eventually finds success. Not because he had more luck, but because he embodied abundance instead of fear. So how do you start embodying abundance in your life? First, start with gratitude. Instead of focusing on what's missing, focus on what's already here. When you appreciate what you have, you attract more of it. Second, act as if you already have enough. Move through life with confidence, knowing opportunities are everywhere. And finally, release attachment. Trust that what's meant for you will come, not through force, but through alignment with your actions and beliefs. Seventh principle, take aligned action and let go. Have you ever caught yourself obsessing over a goal, pushing harder and harder, only to feel like you're going in circles? You do everything right, follow every step, and yet the results don't show up as fast as you want. It's frustrating, isn't it? We've been taught that success is all about effort, about never stopping, never giving up. But here's what most people don't realize. There's a difference between aligned action and desperate action. And sometimes the real key to progress is knowing when to act and when to step back. The Stoics had a deep understanding of this. Seneca once said, "Effort and patience achieve more than force and anxiety." We live in a culture that glorifies hustle, the idea that if you just work hard enough, things have to work out. But true success isn't about blind effort. It's about taking the right steps, staying open to opportunities, and then allowing life to unfold. The problem with forcing things is that it creates resistance. It's like pulling on a knot. The harder you pull, the tighter it gets. Imagine you're trying to fall asleep. You can't force yourself to sleep, right? The more you try to sleep, the more restless you become. But the moment you relax, let go, and trust that sleep will come, it happens naturally. The same is true for success, relationships, and personal growth. You need to act, yes, but you also need to trust the process. Think of a farmer planting seeds. He prepares the soil, plants the seeds, waters them, makes sure they get enough sunlight. But after that, he doesn't dig up the seeds every day demanding they grow faster. He trusts that with time, the harvest will flourish. If he tried to rush the process, he'd only damage what he planted. Life works the same way. You act, you do your part, but then you need to trust that things will develop at their own pace. This applies to every part of life. Take relationships as an example. Have you ever met someone who tried too hard? Maybe they were overly anxious, texting too much, always needing reassurance. Their energy felt heavy, almost desperate. But then there's the person who is calm, confident, who shows interest but also gives space. They naturally attract others because they're not forcing anything. That's what happens when you take aligned action and let go. You create space for things to flow instead of suffocating them. Or think about your career. Maybe you've worked hard, trying to force every opportunity, but nothing seems to move forward? What if, instead of panicking, you trusted that your work was enough and focused on being excellent at what you do, building meaningful connections, and allowing the right doors to open when it's time? This doesn't mean you sit back and do nothing. It means you stop trying to control every outcome. You take intelligent, purposeful action and then trust that what's meant for you will come. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "Do what needs to be done and let happen what happens." That's the essence of aligned action. You focus on what's within your control, your effort, your discipline, your mindset, but you don't obsess over the outcomes. Because the truth is, no matter how much you plan, no matter how much you push, there will always be things outside your control. And the more you resist that truth, the more stressed and frustrated you become. So how do you actually practice this day to day? First, get clarity on your goal and take the necessary steps. Prepare, train, learn, do your part. Second, let go of the need to control when and how results appear. Accept that timing isn't always up to you. And third, trust in your own resilience. Even if things don't turn out exactly as planned, you'll adapt, you'll grow, and you'll find new opportunities along the way. At the end of the day, life isn't about controlling every outcome. It's about mastering yourself. The moment you shift your focus from chasing to aligning, from forcing to flowing, everything starts to fall into place. The Stoics knew this truth centuries ago, and now it's yours to apply. So take a deep breath, trust the process, and remember, true power comes from within. If this video resonated with you, there's another one on screen right now that will take you even deeper into Stoic wisdom. Click on it and keep learning. And if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button so you never miss a new reflection. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.